Welcome to U.S. News Source Channel. Russian troops launched offensive operations on 3 fronts, where they suffered the heaviest losses. Unsuccessful offensive efforts increased the losses of the Russian army. Intensity of the operations on the eastern and southeastern fronts has increased. Russian military post in the key area was engulfed in flames. Explosion took place for hours at the Russian ammunition storage point. There have been remarkable developments on the Russian side. Russian Colonel General Alexander Lapin, who was dismissed from the Central Military District Command of the Russian troops, was appointed Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Ground Forces of the Russian Federation. There may be no one left for Russia to trust. More than 705 Russian soldiers were neutralized during the day. Russia's military loss has exceeded 112,000. Decrease of hundreds of Russian soldiers and dozens of equipment every day causes panic in Moscow. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu made remarkable statements about the war. Tensions between countries are rising. Operations on the fronts are increasing day by day. Ukrainian army has achieved significant success on many fronts in recent days and has recaptured many areas. On top of that, the Russian army, which suffered consecutive losses, started to try its luck again. According to the statements, the Russian army is conducting offensive operations on 3 fronts. These 3 fronts are the Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Lyman fronts. These fronts are the fronts where Russia suffered the heaviest losses. Despite this, being so persistent on these fronts shows both Russia's strategic mistakes and the critical importance of the regions. Although Russia suffers heavy losses, it is stubbornly trying to attack again in these regions. Another reason for this is that operations have been carried out in these regions for months. If Russia withdraws from these regions, it will have to face major defeats. Moreover, what the Russian army could not do for months, the Ukrainian army will have done in a much shorter time. For this, there is a great pressure on the Russian soldiers and commanders at the front. At the same time, it was stated that the tactical position was tried to be developed in the Kupiansk region. With these moves of the Russian troops, it shows that their efforts are aimed at gaining control within the administrative borders of Donetsk. However, these aims have not been finalized yet. At the same time, it is reported that the Ukrainian army repelled the attacks of Russian troops in many areas on this front, such as Bakhmut, Vodian and Marinka. While this nullifies Russia's attacks, it also causes it to use its ammunition in vain. Moreover, it is known that Russian soldiers try to advance to Bakhmut via the Soledar region. However, these attacks are said to be insufficient. At the same time, explosions occurred in important areas in the southeast. It is known that the Melitopol region, located on the Zaporizhia front, is very critical due to its proximity to the Sea of Azov and to the intersection of 2 important highways. Because its border with the sea poses a risk for the ships providing maritime communication in the Russian Navy, while its location at the intersection of 2 highways is of great logistical importance. For all these reasons, operations in the region are increasing day by day. This time, it was reported that explosions occurred for 5 hours from the Russian ammunition storage point in the region. As a result of powerful explosions, flames rose from this point. The mayor of the district reported that this Russian military post was seriously damaged. Moreover, according to those stated, this point was a very large area used both as an ammunition storage point and a military base. It was reported that many Russian military resources were also seriously damaged as a result of the explosions that started at night and lasted for hours. After the incident, intense conflicts in the region began to increase. In the past days, successive explosions were reported from this region, and the mayor of the region reported that Russian soldiers had suffered significant losses. Moreover, due to many characteristics of the region, it is estimated that mutual attacks will increase day by day. On the other hand, remarkable developments have occurred from Russia. Russian Colonel General Alexander Lapin, who was dismissed from the Central Military District Command of the Russian soldiers, was appointed Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Land Forces of the Russian Federation. As it is known, Lapin was appointed as the Chief of General Staff of the Russian military group deployed on Syrian territory in 2017. Afterwards, he started to head the Central Military District Command and commanded the Russian troops in Syria for about 3 months. Moreover, this name, who also participated in the Battle of Lysychansk, commanded the Central Group and was even honored with the title of Hero of Russia. After the advance of the Ukrainian troops on the Kharkiv front, when the targets in the region could not be achieved, the Western Military Region took over the command of the forces. Towards the end of October, Lapin was the commander of the Central Military District of the Russian troops. He was also responsible for maintaining dominance in the Svatov region in Luhansk. However, heavy losses were suffered due to the great mistakes made in the region, and as a result of the great defeat, the Lyman region was taken back by Ukraine. With the occurrence of these events, many names made heavy criticisms of Lapin. Lapin, described as incompetent, was blamed for defeats on the Lyman front. He was subsequently dismissed. But now, the reappointment of a dismissed person as Chief of General Staff has drawn quite a lot of attention. Russia, on the other hand, showed that there are very few names that it trusts with this move. Because, rather than appointing a new name, a person who was accused of major mistakes and dismissed was appointed. However, such situations may cause bigger problems to erupt on the Russian side. At the same time, it is seen that the Russian army continues to lose power on the fronts. According to the statements of the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Ukrainian troops destroyed nearly 30 military equipment of the Russian forces. Explosions followed one after another from these military equipment. In addition, Ukrainian forces neutralized more than 700 Russian soldiers in just one day. Since the beginning of the war, Russia has lost more than 112,000 soldiers in total. Moreover, these losses are gradually increasing, which causes the Russian army to experience a significant decrease in operations. On the other hand, the Ukrainian Defense Forces carried out 4 attacks on 14 important points where the military equipment of the Russian troops are concentrated and on the Russian anti-aircraft missile systems with their planes. Ukrainian armed forces also hit 5 Russian military equipment and 2 Russian command posts. It is known that the aim of hitting these points was to cut off communication between soldiers and to reduce the number of experienced Russian soldiers. When these are provided, most of the soldiers on the front are inexperienced and they suffer significant losses unless they can communicate. This leads to successive defeats. On the other hand, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu made important statements about the war at the meeting he held with the officials of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Shoigu emphasized that the goals for 2023 are to take measures to improve the combat capabilities of the Russian army. In addition, Shoigu said, "We must constantly analyze our military's operational experience in Ukraine and Syria, and use it to prepare personnel training programs and military equipment procurement plans." At the same time, this name made the nuclear triad statements that caused reactions. As can be seen from these statements, Russia is developing its nuclear capacity. Explaining that the capacity consisting of strategic aircraft, intercontinental missiles and submarines will be developed, Shoigu said, "We will continue to develop the nuclear triad and maintain the level of combat readiness. Nuclear shield is the main guarantor of our sovereignty and territorial integrity." He also stated that they will increase the capabilities of the Russian Air Force, including unmanned aerial vehicles and warplanes, and stated that among their priority plans is the expansion of the arsenal of modern attack vehicles. All these developments will become even more important in the future. For this, much more attention should be paid to the ammunition and military equipment used. Decisions made by countries and all kinds of steps taken on the fronts are now of much more critical importance. In the long run, the party that proceeds without error will have a great advantage. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.